Hey boys, welcome back to some more Nrl Supercoach 2024 preseason discussions and analysis. In this video, we're going to be talking about the halves. Now, I was going to split it up in between halfbacks and 5'8", but I thought, you know what? There's not going to be a whole heck of a lot to go through every player. So we'll do the halfbacks and the 5'8" in one video in this one. So we'll start with the halfbacks. Now, simply put, the biggest question you're going to have to ask yourself and answer is if you're going to start the two big guns from round one. And that is obviously Nicholas Hynes and Nathan Cleary. Hynes is almost $1 million, 970K. And Nathan Cleary is, a bit cheaper, a tick over 900K at 912. So both very expensive. They're both very, very expensive. And this is what it comes... obviously, it's more to do with... in a perfect world, yes, you're going to start with both these guys. It's more the fact, who are you willing to sacrifice if you're going to start both of them? Because if you start both these guys, you can't have... the way So... you know what, quickly, I'll show you the team I've got at the moment with these two guys. So, I've got these two guys in. I've got Tommy Trbojevic and Kalen Ponga. So, that's a heap of money tied up in fullback and halfback at the moment. Now, I've also got Ruben Garrick, which I'm not going to start Garrick because he's playing center. So, I could probably save some money there. But just for now, big money spent in the fullback and halfback spot. It's meant that I've had to, it's a bit of a shame. I was just sort of playing around with it. I've got 150k in the bank. At the moment, I've got two cheapy hookers. Now, I don't think I'm going to do that. Obviously, with a bit of cash and a bit of fine tuning. I've also got Jack DeBell in there. I don't know why I put him there. I could save cash as well. So I could probably have... I'm probably leaning... If you're going to go this way, you're probably telling yourself that you're not going to have a premium front row forward. You're probably going to have two mid-range options. Or, if we get a fucking lucky cheapy front rower that's going to start, you could even go cheaper in the front row. So have two... 400k guys. Then you could have maybe a mid-range dummy half and a cheapie. You might be able to get to a Reece Robson or someone about there. You're not going to be able to afford Harry Grant. And at 5'8", you're probably not going to be able to afford Dylan Brown. And we'll talk more about the 5'8" as well. Well, obviously. That's just a brief little simple sort of what you might have to sacrifice. Obviously, you could go way cheaper in the center wing. It all depends on what cheapies come up and about. So, if you get a bunch of cheapies and you're happy to play them, and you don't want to spend much money at all in the center wing, then yeah, you could probably fit in maybe a Grant as well, or a Dylan Brown, someone like that. But you are sacrificing. So, that's the big question. Do you start with the two big guns? Now, let's not kid ourselves. They will be the best by season's end. Who's going to be number one or who's going to be number two? I don't know. They're going to be pretty close, and they are going to be substantially better than the next. You look at this. Sean Johnson had a career year. Obviously he was amazing years ago, but he came back into his own last year. He was sensational. Try, assists, tries. He had it on a string, and he averaged 77, which is fantastic. It's great, but it's still more than 10 points below Cleary and even more behind Nico Hynes. So there's a big drop off. But the one thing I think at the moment I'm leaning towards Nico Hynes as my number one priority, just because the Sharks once again have a very good draw, and I think that is a big factor in the early season. They take on the Warriors, which the Warriors were good last year, but I still think you can put some points on them. Then they have the Dogs, the Tigers, Raiders. Then they have a bye. Then Then Rabbits, Cowboys, Raiders, Dragons again. Like it's a really good start for Nico Hines. So I'm leaning towards him being sort of the number one priority. Nathan Cleary, I'm starting to lean off starting Cleary as well. Now, again, it all depends. It depends what cheapies, if I can have a team that I like with Cleary and Hines. But if you look at Cleary's start to the seasons lately, I mean, a couple of tough. We'll look at his draw first. So he's got Melbourne. Did he have Melbourne last time? No, Broncos. Okay, yeah. Melbourne. I mean, that'll be a tough game. Melbourne are always notable for starting the seasons well. And I think they know coming up against Penrith, it's a big game. They would love to try to upset them early. So it's Melbourne, Parramatta, which, I mean, yes, Parramatta weren't necessarily good last year, but I mean, you look at that Parramatta team and surely they're going to be better this year. Then they got the Broncos, grand final rematch. The Roosters, which, I mean, again, were not good last year, but you find it hard to think that they're not going to, turn it around, I would say, this year. Then he has a pretty good run. He's got Manly, Tigers, Cowboys, and then Rabbits again, Bulldogs, Warriors. So it's a bit of a tough start. And if you look back at his starts lately, so last year, again, against the Broncos who upset them, he scored 53. Round 2, scored 40 against the Rabbits. Then they had a bye, 77. Then he went fucking bang, bang. So, I mean, this is the worry. This is the worry with not starting Cleary, because if you don't start him, you're probably thinking, I've got to get him in. Obviously, you can't go like, in round 4, round 5, he's going to score a big ton. No, obviously, it doesn't work like that. It's good to look at previous stats, but don't think it's going to happen again. It's just that it's a good little teaser for what could happen. It's good to have a quick look, but don't read too much into it. But it is notable. But yeah, a couple of big ones, and then just good scores all the way down. I mean, pretty much it was pretty sensational. If we look back at, let's have a quick squiz. So 2022, what did he do? Okay, so he didn't play the first 3 games in 2022. Then he came back, 34 against the Rabbits, 57 against the Dogs. Then he went fucking huge against the Bronx and huge against the Raiders. So I mean, it's a bit of a pattern. It is a little bit of a pattern, right? Like the first couple of games, just sort of gets into it a little bit. 2021. So 2021, he's pretty much just gone massive. Like, 2021's a bit of a write-off year, though, right? Like, 2021 was the fucking Peter Volandes ball everyone talks about. Like, I mean, Chom Trbojevic averaged fucking huge. Like, every attacking player had, like, a season year, right? So I wouldn't factor in 2021 too much. But he obviously did start well against the Cowboys and the Doggies. What about 2020? What about 2020? So 2020, he also went bang to start. I mean, granted, good against the Roosters, and then he had the Dragons, who were not good. I don't think there's much point going back too far. I mean, 2019, he actually started pretty miserably. But he was a young kid back then. But yeah, I don't know. Just to start the year, I'm somewhat... If I can get another halfback that I'm happy with, that can make some money... But that's the danger, right? Because if you go on someone cheaper and your plan is to get up to Cleary if he drops a bit of cash, you got to do it pretty quickly, and he could go bang bang to start the year. Like, there's no reason he can't. It's just, last couple of years the Panthers have started a little bit, not slow, but maybe, they're a team that focuses, obviously they focus a lot on defense regardless, but first few games really defense centered, and the attack just isn't quite as slick. Obviously, missing a couple of players as well every year has hindered it. So it's it's an interesting one. If we go down the list at some of the other top line players. So Sean Johnson, we talked about 800k. Cherry Evans, 800k. I got to be honest, like, this is a thing though, right? Like, these two guys, I wouldn't touch. I know. if you're gonna go, I would never say to someone like, do not go with this. Like, if you want to go with a Johnson, if you want to go with a Cherry Evans as a pod play, I mean, go for it. You know, Supercoach is about trying new things, and if it comes off, it can come off in a big way. But personally, if I was gonna spend like 800k, you would just try to make that 100k extra or a bit over 100k to get up to Cleary, right? Because it's just like, are you just going to stick with Johnson for the whole year? You could, but you're going to lose like a fair few points on Cleary every week if you do that, and Cherry Evans for that fact. But yeah, I just wouldn't go someone at that price if it's not the top. Jerome Hughes, 720k, again, you know, obviously, you know, quite a bit cheaper for sure, but again, he just doesn't have the ceiling of those guys. Mitch Moses as well, 700k. Like, I mean, he averaged 68, which is good. It's very good, but it's not 89. It's definitely not 89. And Moses is a guy that he does have the ceiling, but he's also got those 10 to 30 point scores in him. So if you start with Moses as a super pod play, fucking 9% of people own Moses. That is very high. Who did they start with? I'm interested to see. How did he start the year last year? He got a 16 in round 1. I mean, it is against the Storm, but I mean, 16 in round 1's a little bit scary, right? It must have gone to Golden Point. I don't even remember it. And he, you know, went pretty solid. I mean, 83, but then 59, 53, 34. Like, it's just, that's the problem. Like, those 59 and 53s for like Cleary and Hines are probably at bottom like 60s, 70s. And then who's he got? Yeah, I guess that's why people might be jumping on. He's got the Dogs. Yes, that could be a really big matchup. But then they got the fucking Penrith. So that big score in round 1 could be sort of dismissed in round 2 with Penrith. And then Manly Tigers. It is a pretty good draw for Moses, barring the Penrith game. So it is a pretty good draw. Got to be honest. But yeah, that's why I was wanting Dylan Brown as well. But we'll talk more about that. So I don't know. Personally, I wouldn't go there. Just the risk of those low scores really would affect you. And the other big point about these guys is the captaincy option. Captaincy is such a massive part of the game. I still stand by that. I think the captaincy is way too big a swing in Supercoach. I wish it wasn't such a massive like bonus. Like, it just affects the overall score too much, in my opinion. But the way it is, you have to have players that you're confident putting the captaincy on. And Cleary and Hines, you're confident putting it on one of those two every single week. Mitchell Moses, if you're paying 700k for him, like, even with the Dogs in the first game, are you really confident putting the captaincy on Mitchell Moses? It would be a massive pod, but he could shit the bed like he has before. So it's a bit of a nightmare. Adam Reynolds wouldn't touch. Sammy Walker. I mean, Walker at 600k, again, you save a lot of cash, but I don't know. He just, the Roosters will be better, but they do have a really tough start to the year as well. So, yeah, and again, he might not even goal kick. I mean, if Suaalii is in the team, he was a pretty good sharpshooter, so I don't know. Who knows? And then we go down. I mean, there's nothing too much of note here. Like, again, this price is just in between. It's a price that you're not going to pay for these guys because it's too much, and then they're not really going to make money. I mean, Benny Hines is always pretty solid. Sexton, Matt Burton, he is 5'8" dual, I guess, but fucking Burton. Luke Brooks. 8% of people have Luke Brooks. I don't know. Maybe, I mean, playing, if Tommy Trbojevic is like fully fit and firing, I mean, Luke Brooks could do some good stuff. He just has to give Tommy some early ball and fucking try assists, line break assists. Like, he could go pretty well in this Manly side, but I don't know about starting him at 560k. Luke Keary, he's teased at being like a Supercoach gun the odd time he goes on runs, but yeah, just again, not the consistency. Then we go down. We're starting to get to, I guess, a range. Like I was saying, if I wasn't going to start Cleary, I probably want my backup halfback to be, I mean, probably around this 400k and less, just hoping that they can make some quick cash. That's the idea. So who is a standout? Braden Trindle is not bad. 539k. He's obviously got that starting position now with Nico Hines. Now, is it a really good combo for them, though? I don't know. I don't really know. He's not going to goal kick, which is a huge detriment. Because if we look at his scores, round 1, 2, and 3, he scored really well, but that was with goal kicking. And then, played 5 minutes, played 11 minutes. So, I mean, then he played 80 minutes for the rest of the season, 2013. I guess that was against Penrith, but 20 against Manly, 73, 89, 40s. Yeah, I don't particularly like it. Again, he's got a good draw with Nico Hines, but I don't know. It's just not, for whatever reason, it's just not ideal. Or it doesn't feel right to start with two of the same team's halves, because especially with Nico Hines in the side, he's going to take so much footy that is Trindle really going to get involved? I don't think so. He'll have the odd game where he does score a try or he gets a couple of try assists, but I don't see him. I think just playing outside of Hines, he's going to be around that 40 to 50 average, so not going to make much money in my opinion. Jane Sullivan, he potentially will get the start at the Tigers, but yeah, again at 400k, I was a little keen on him early, but the more I look at it, I'm again, is he really going to make much cash pretty quickly to warrant it? Jay Clifford is actually an interesting one. Now, he's probably not going to get the spot. Well, I say probably, he's definitely not going to get the spot, but fuck, man, I gotta be honest, I would drop Chad Townsend in a heartbeat and put Jake Clifford back in that starting team. I mean, Clifford showed so much promise at points in his Cowboys stint, and then he would slip into lack of confidence and just sort of struggling and go on poor runs. But I don't know, I feel like him and a Dearden combo would work really well, and he was a pretty decent Supercoach scorer back when he played, but yeah, he's not going to get the spot, unfortunately. At least to start the season. Aiden Caesar. So Caesar at the moment I've got him 5'8". Now I'll talk about him. Well, we're talking about him now. That's fine. So I like Caesar. I actually do think Caesar is pretty good to either have at halfback or 5'8". Probably. I mean, when we go to 5'8". There probably are quite a few, or there's at least a couple more cheapy 5'8" options. So if you're gonna not go to premium halfbacks, you'd probably put Caesar as your second halfback. Just because I think at 345k, I don't think he's going to set the world on fire by any means, but he was always a pretty steady scorer. I don't know. Does it go back far enough to when he last played? When did he... No, it doesn't have it. But he was always I feel like he was always around that 40 to 50 scorer. Sometimes a little bit higher in that Titans side. He's a solid defender. He'll make his tackles. He doesn't take the line on a hell of a lot, but he's got a great kicking game. He does love a line dropout. He's got the 40-20 in his game. A really good left foot boot on him. And he's a great goal kicker. I've heard people fucking talk about, they keep bringing up Api Coruscant as a potential buy if he's goal kicking, and I just keep shaking my head, what the fuck he's talking about? If Aiden Caesar is in the team, he 100% is going to be goal kicking. Aiden Caesar is a legitimate sharpshooter. Api Coruscant is fine at best. I don't think he's a very good goal kicker. Aiden Caesar will 100% be goal kicking if he is the starting halfback in that Tigers team, which I think it does pose some pretty good value. So if you're going to go a cheaper option at halfback, I think he potentially is the way to go, just because he can make some cash pretty quickly. But again, he's not going to get... This is the tricky part, because Caesar, he might make... he might even go pretty well to start the year. So he might make a quick 100k or even a bit more like after the couple of price changes, right? He might make it pretty quickly, but it's still a mile. Even if he makes like, a couple 100K, he's still so far away from Nathan Cleary that you're going to have to either downgrade someone or have a lot of cash saved up in the bank, which is possible, but is it really worth it? That's the thing. Is it really worth that commitment? Yes, it might save you a fair bit of money, like over the long term, but I don't know. Playing Supercoach the last couple of years, I feel like money is not that hard to come by. Like, yeah, there is the odd time where you sort of get stuck and you just haven't nailed your cheapies or whatever else. You make a bad trade. But I feel like for the most part, if you just do, like, if you get some of the decent cheapies, even if you don't nail it, you're gonna have enough cash to pretty much buy who you want by season's end. So I don't think it's, I don't know. I'm tossing and turning. I'm tossing and turning on what I want to do. And I know I just said at the start that I'm sort of leaning towards now not starting Cleary. Now that I've looked through the options again, I'm like, no, just start Cleary. I think it's just beneficial to start Cleary, you know? I think just start them both. Save the fucking trouble. Because if Cleary goes bang bang, he could go up to $1 million anyway, and make it even more difficult to get him in. So, yeah, I don't know. I don't think it's really that advisable to muck around with it this much. If you're not, I guess at the other point, if you're not looking to get Cleary in like as soon as possible, then yeah, you could go with someone cheaper and just ride them out and get the cash bonus and stuff and spend your money elsewhere. But again, like, if you're not going Cleary, okay, you might be able to get Dylan Brown, or you might be able to get Harry Grant. But if you're looking at one for one, who would you rather have, Cleary or Dylan Brown? You'd rather have Cleary. Would you rather have Cleary or Harry Grant? I think you'd rather have Cleary, because again, you look at the backups and it's like, okay, you didn't buy Cleary, so you went with fucking Aiden Caesar, or you went with, I don't know, Trindle as well. Okay, they could be okay, but it's not great. You didn't go, but then on the flip side, if you didn't go Harry Grant, maybe you went Reece Robson, or you went another one of those guys around that 500k mark. They can actually score pretty solid, and they're going to be guys you're happy to play. And if you didn't go Dylan Brown, we'll talk about him, but Jaden Campbell, who I like quite a bit. So it's not a one for one. And again, like, this is just it's hypotheticals. I just want to make that clear. It's hypotheticals. Like, at the end of the day, I mean, fucking Caesar could come out and average like 60, 70 and make good cash, and Cleary could be slow off the gates again, and they could average similar for the first few weeks. But it just doesn't feel like it's really worth the trouble in not starting them both. Because if we look, is there anyone else? I mean, Chanel Harris-Tavita, he is only halfback. Now, again, he's not going to get that spots because, I mean, obviously Johnson's the half, and then, like, surely Tamari Martin is the 5'8". I thought Martin was exceptional for them. He did miss a bit of footy. It's great to see Harris-Tavita back, but I can't see him starting in the halves. I mean, if somehow he does get the starting 5, and even Luke Metcalf is there as well, so I just don't see Harris-Tavita getting a start. If he somehow did, then it does change. Okay, you're not spending $340, you're spending $240 on a halfback that could make some quick cash, but I don't think it's really viable, because I can't see Harris-Tavita getting a start there, unfortunately. Anyone else of note? I don't think there's going to be any other cheapies. No, that's pretty much it. So let's go on to the 5'8", which is also a pretty interesting position, because I think Dylan Brown is he's not like Cleary and Hines, where he's so far above the rest. Obviously, he's substantially more than most, but he's only 5 points ahead of Cameron Munster. But Cameron Munster is he's just such a, oh my god! I just got to see, what has his averages been like for the last 4 years. I feel like it's been 70 every goddamn year. And I don't think I've ever started with Cameron Munster or really ever had him in the team. Yeah, so 2023, he averaged 71.3. Yeah, that makes sense. I was like such a revelation, but no, that's what he's based on, you fool. I was thinking 2024 was the season that we just gone. 2022, yeah, he averaged 80. He averaged 80 in 2022 actually. What he averaged in 2021, which was like the big score year. So he had 74 in 2021. 2020 he averaged 70. 2019 he averaged 69. 2018. 58. He was a young kid back then. But yeah, I mean, he's just a prolific 70 scorer, which is good. He's very good. But I think Dylan Brown is a bit safer as well. Like, his base stats are so fucking good. And then he just has a bit more of a ceiling to him, I think, than Munster. So I like Dylan Brown a lot. But at the moment, he's not in the team. So we're going down the list. I mean, Munster, again, he's not a bad pickup for sure. Like, but I guess the other factor, if you're tossing up between Brown and Munster, again, they're pretty similar, but Munster's going to play Origin. Dylan Brown is not. So you get extra games as well from Brown. So it's just like a no-brainer to go Brown over Munster. Cody Walker at 700k. I mean, he didn't play his best footy last year. He was great in times, at periods. I mean, I guess that's Cody Walker in a bit of a nutshell. He still averaged 70, a tick under Cameron Munster. But again, I just wouldn't be confident starting Cody Walker. I think he is a guy that does take a little bit as well to get into his work. If we look back at 2023... yeah, he went a bit slow to start, 30, 44, 42. Then he went on a bit of a run. Then he had a few. I mean, he's pretty consistent the whole season after that. He actually finished pretty poorly, actually. 55, 58, 49, 81, 41, and 45. Yeah, I guess the Rabbitohs actually fell off a cliff. They were going pretty well at the start, and then they fell off in the back half. So they got a pretty okay draw. But yeah, I don't know. I'm not that keen to start Cody Walker. Nikorima, he was great for people that had him, but he's not gonna get a start this year. Thomas Dearden, I don't hate Thomas Dearden, if I'm being honest. I don't know. I feel like he's gonna go to another level this year. He had some big games in him last year. He's a guy. He's similar in a way to Dylan Brown. He's got really good base stats, not quite as good, and he does have some lower scores in him, but he did have some big... He went 179 against the Tigers, 118 against Penrith, 95... He had a fucking... Look at that 3 streak there. If you had him for that, you're killing it. Yeah. But looking at his overall, it's just a bit too many low scores to be too excited with Thomas Dearden. Matty Burton, no. Luke Brooks... I mean, again, I think if you're going to pick Luke Brooks, you might pick him at 5'8", but I still wouldn't do it. I still wouldn't do it. Luke Keary at 5'8" as well, wouldn't do it. Ezra Mam, I see a lot of people jumping on Ezra Mam, which it does make sense because he was so good in the grand final, but I feel like Ezra Mam is going to be one of those guys, maybe like a Luai in the sense that he can look so good, and I feel like he's going to go to another level potentially and be like just incredible this year, but I don't think he's ever going to be like one of the top 5'8" Supercoach scorers because he does get the attacking stats, but his base isn't that good, and then he's not consistently getting like multiple a game. He'll have like a freakish play and then that'll be it for the game. Adam Reynolds is commanding most of the footy, and then Ezra Mam just pops up and scores some beautiful tries, but it's not like for the full 80 minutes he's like breaking tackles and this and that. So I wouldn't do it because look at his scores. Like, he was great last year, and I think 80 was his highest score. So 82 was his highest score. I just wouldn't go Ezra Mam. just wouldn't go it. 18% though. People are excited. So yeah, there's Luke Metcalf. He's 483k, so you wouldn't touch him. Jaden Campbell is a guy. 28% of people are jumping on Campbell, and I mean, I'm one of them. I'm one of them at the moment. Now, his stats are a little bit deceiving, right? Now, obviously, we can see the games where you only played a few minutes. 30, 18, 20, 59. He played 80 here. He got 98. He played 80 against Broncos. Oh, he only scored 29. Now, granted, the Broncos were fucking flying, and they probably put the sword to them, right? So it's a little bit, it's a little bit deceiving. 35 against Parramatta, 36 against Newcastle, 55 against the Dogs, 39, 76, 95, 56, 47. So I mean, if you look at the scores, it doesn't fill you with that much confidence, but I just, my big takeaway is that Jaden Campbell was never like the number one fullback, right? He was always getting switched about. At the back end of the season, he was starting to get some more games on the trot at fullback, but he was constantly, like, it was always Brimson's spot, and then he would get injured. Campbell would, like, come in for a few minutes, or he would be off the bench some games. He would start some games at fullback. So he never got, like, the full confirmation that he's the starting fullback going forward. This year, though, they've already said Brimson is playing center and Campbell is the fullback. Now, personally, I think Campbell is a fucking gun. And I just some of the games I saw of him playing fullback, even if the score wasn't overly high, his involvement was really good. Like, he was carrying the ball like 20 times and breaking tackles. He just might not have got like a line break or a try and his score wasn't really affected, but he's got that ability to go big, and I think is a mid-range cash generation that could be. I mean, he's not a pod, that's for sure, which is a little disappointing, but that is disappointing that so many people are jumping on Campbell, I gotta be honest. But I think it is the fact that, yeah, he's playing fullback, you can pick him up to 5'8", like it seems like a slam dunk. I don't think he's gonna be a 70 average or anything like that, but I think he can definitely average 60 and make some good cash. So I'm really liking starting with Campbell. It could change, and I could switch things up and get back into Dylan Brown, who I think will be the best 5'8", and I definitely want to get Dylan Brown into the team as soon as possible. But I'm leaning towards Jaden Campbell, and I've got to be honest, he's one of my favorite players. I love watching him play, and I'm so excited to see him actually get like a proper stint at fullback. He's at the preseason now. We'll see him in the trials, and then he gets the crack. He gets the crack at that fullback position, which I'm so excited for. So I think he's going to have a massive year, and that's why I am very keen on him, and I guess so many other people are as well. If we go down the list. I mean, Braden Trindle, I guess you could pick up in 5'8" as well. If I had Jaden Campbell or Trindle, I'm going Campbell every day of the week. I mean, Trindle might average similar potentially, but I just don't see it with him and Hines in the same team. Who else? I mean, Sullivan, I guess, as well. Zay Katoa. I don't know, another year older, maybe Katoa finds his feet, but I don't know, you can't really see too much more. There's Tamari Martin, who might get the spot, or I don't know, will it be him or Metcalf? I'm not too sure. Aiden Caesar, so again, if I had the choice between Caesar or Jane Sullivan, I mean, Caesar is like 50k cheaper as well, so I'm going Caesar. He'll have the goal kicking. He's always been a pretty solid Supercoach option, and I've honestly always liked Caesar. I think he was a very, very good player back when he used to play. Obviously, it's been a few years, but he's also been really good in the Super League, which doesn't necessarily equate to bringing him back to the NRL, but it's not like he's gone to the Super League and had a fucking shocker. He's gone there and played really well, so I think Caesar's going to be a very solid option. Obviously, it is annoying that he starts on the bye, but it is what it is. Every team's got a bye, so it's fine. Anyone else? I mean, you got Kyle Flanagan, who I mean, I don't know, Flanagan, At 300k, he's going to have the starting 5'8" spot. Does he? I don't know. Where is he playing at the Dragons? I guess he will be the 5'8", won't he? Which, I don't know. Is that enticing? I'm not too sure. What has Flanagan, like, even done? I guess he hasn't... It's going to be a bit... The stats, I don't know, are really going to show it, because has he really had a good crack in the full 80 minutes? I mean, I guess the start of the year he did. Fucking... Who was he playing for last year? Who was he playing for? I've lost my mind. Who was he playing for? Who was he playing for, bro? Fuck. The Dogs. He's playing for the Dogs. That's right. So what do you get? Like, played 70 minutes, 27. He got 55, 47, 27. Yeah, it's not very enticing, is it? It's not particularly enticing. 66. I mean, he's cheap, but I'd rather Caesar. He'll have the goal kicking, so it's nice. And then you go down the list. So KO Weeks is a very popular cheapy option as well. I mean, 270k, he's tipped to have the fullback spot. Now, the problem, and we'll talk about it in the center wing as well, because there's a lot of fucking moving parts here, right? Because, actually, no, he's going to be playing 5'8". They're probably, Xavier Savage is going to be back at fullback. So it probably won't impact KO Weeks unless he fucking stinks it up, which... Watching him at Manly, I don't know. Is he really that good? I always thought he was pretty good, but yeah, he disappointed me a lot at Manly. But I don't know. Going to Canberra behind a pretty good forward pack, in my opinion. I think it's as good a chance as any for KO Weeks. But I was going to talk about the problem with oh my god, I'm blanking. What's his name? I've completely blanked. He played fullback last year, and he's a center. He should be playing center or possibly wing. Sebastian Kris, for God's sakes. But yeah, it won't affect KO Weeks, but it could affect... we'll talk about more in the center wing discussion, because there's a lot of fucking moving parts. And I guess at the end of the day, it could affect KO Weeks, because you got like Ethan Strange, who's tipped to play center wing, but he's also can play in the halves, so... Yeah, I don't know. KO Weeks is probably locked in, but also a little bit... Well, Ethan Strange, there he is right there. He's a dual center wing 5'8". Everyone's picking him up in center wing because, again, he's tipped to play starting center, but Sebastian Kris is out injured, or not injured, he's suspended. We'll talk about it in the center wing. There's a lot to fucking talk about, but KO Weeks is a pretty good option. I don't know. Would I rather him or Caesar? I don't know. Who's going to make more money? It really depends. It really depends. Like, you are saving a good chunk of change going KO Weeks over Caesar, but... I don't know. That could be one you sort of watch trials and see how they're looking, and you make your decision. But I don't... KO Weeks is a good cheapie to pick up for sure. Anyone else? Probably not. You got the young Latufanu, who Benji Marshall likes a lot, but you wouldn't expect him to play this year. But you never know. Maybe in a few weeks, if the Tigers are really going shit, you might be able to downgrade someone like a Caesar or a KO Weeks or someone to Latufanu if he makes his debut. You never know. He probably will at some point in the season. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Like I said, I was so keen on Dylan Brown to start, but then having the Cleary and Hines duel, it means sacrifices. Again, the team I've got at the moment, I could definitely save money, and maybe we could go back up to Dylan Brown. It's not insurmountable. Like, it's a bit over 300k to get back up to him from Campbell, so it's not crazy. I've got 150k in the bank, so I could do it, but I do like... I mean, if I could go Dylan Brown and Jaden Campbell, that would probably be ideal, right? Like, that would be fucking nice. I guess a lot of money. But if we look, so Ruben Garrick is gone. I'm probably not going to have Vilea either. And then, fucking decide who you've got in the cheapies. Taylor May's probably the only guy that's locked in the centre wing. So I don't know. It's so much moving part. We'll talk more. I'll get a better idea when we actually do the centre wings on who I actually like in the centre wings. But at the moment, yeah, I could run a Camp. In a perfect world, I would love to run a Campbell and Dylan Brown combo. At the moment, though, I don't hate just starting Campbell and fading Brown to start the season, just to facilitate easier that Hines and Cleary combo. If you're not going to go Dylan Brown, again, you can go Munster. I don't hate Munster. I think he's a pretty safe bet. I don't hate going... I got to be honest, I don't hate taking a punt on Cody Walker because the Rabbitohs, they got a good team. They should be fired up for how badly they finished the season last year, and it just felt like everything was just slightly off. So I wouldn't be shocked to see if the Rabbitohs really up the ante in the opening round. So you could take a punt, you could take a pod on Cody Walker to have a bounce back and kill it, because he's a guy that can be the top 5-8 scorer for sure. Like he's done it before. He can go like that 70 plus to 80. He can for sure. So I don't hate the punt on Cody Walker if you want to spend up and, you know, not go with the crowded Dylan Brown. Anyone else, not really that keen on. Then if you're going cheaper, I love Jaden Campbell. Braden Trindle is... I'm not that keen on Braden Trindle. I can see the appeal. Like he is a decent scorer, but he's not going to have the goal kicking. Nico Hines is going to take so much footy off him, so I don't really like it. Then go even cheaper. I mean, I do like Aiden Caesar. Kyle Flanagan. No, I don't like Kyle Flanagan. KO Weeks also cheapy that you should potentially pick up. Ethan Strange. Again, he's centre wing, so if you're going to get Ethan Strange, which I probably will because he is tipped to start in round 1, you'd get him in centre wing for sure. So there's another cheapie I can add to the centre wing that's playing, and then yeah, that's pretty much it. So that pretty much wraps up the halfbacks and 5/8s. I mean, there's not that many options, so to speak, but it is a big decision on what you're going to do. If you're going to start the two big guns, if you're going to start Dylan Brown, if you're going to save a little bit of cash, if you think they're going to start a bit slow, but then, doing that, you are wasting you're sort of sacrificing cash, or you're sacrificing trades for extra cash, which I think last year I probably did that a bit. Like I was more like, I'll get the cash and use a trade. But I think going this year, I just think the trades are more... They're more valuable than cash, because I feel like cash is pretty easy to come by if we're being honest. So I don't know. It could bite me in the ass if things don't plan out. But at the moment, that's what I'm leaning towards. And then 5/8 Campbell. I think Campbell is pretty much locked in. It's just a matter of if I'm gonna have Dylan Brown as well and go the big boys. Well, I mean Campbell's not a big boy, but it would look damn good having Cleary, Hines, Dylan Brown, Jaden Campbell. That would be a sexy looking halfback 5/8 quartet. But we'll see how we shape up on that front. So hope the guys are enjoying the series. Make sure to like and comment, and I'll see you in the next one.